All right, so well, welcome to the second session. So, if you can hear me and you can see my screen, please you can unmute and let me know. Can we see my screen and can we also hear me clearly? Can we hear me and can we see my screen, please?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I think I'm recording right now, so we can continue. All right, so in the last session, we saw how we can open files with two methods, right? This was the first one. Then we said going forward, this is the method we are going to be using, right? So the difference between this one and that other one is because with this you always need to close, but with this, because it is indented, as it should, you don't have to do anything dot close, right? So that's the benefit of this particular one. It looks cleaner. This one just looks messy. Everything is just arranged on the left hand side. So how does it work? You use the with keyword, small letters, then the open function. So now inside that bracket, the file you want to open, then the mode that you want to use, then an alias. An alias just means I'm extracting everything from here into this variable. So this variable can be anything. Then that variable dot read, we are storing everything inside the variable, then we are printing that variable, right? So basically we are extracting, we are not adding anything yet, we are just reading, then storing it inside the variable, then printing that variable. So once I run it, you can see it went inside that particular file, printed the first one, second one, third, fourth, and last one, right? So that's basically how to read the content of a file. Remember, our mode is still set to R. So before we change our mode to something else, let me comment this. Then we want to see another method, right? Remember when we did dir, apart from read, there were some other method. Read line, read lines. There are so many methods in there. There's even write, right? So now let's see some other method, right? So we can go inside that particular file and say file dot read line, right? Read line. Then we want to store everything inside the variable contents. Then we want to print everything eventually. So we want to do contents, right? So what this particular one is doing is we are going inside that same file, but instead of saying Python should read everything, we are just saying it should read line. So now let's see what read line is even doing, right? So I'll run this. You can see it went inside. Let me clear this first, right? So it went inside that file and it only returned one line. If I run it again, it will go back in there and return one line. Remember, this is singular. Read line. There's difference between read line and read lines. So anytime you're using read line, it will return one line after one line, right? So now some persons might ask, what if I want to return 4 lines out of the 5? Right? So what do? It means you have to use a loop. Remember, anytime you want to iterate over something, you want to stop at a particular point, it is loops. So in Python, whenever you want to loop over something over a particular period of time, you can just say maybe for maybe I in, if there was a particular list, for instance, maybe we have names equals maybe Shegun, maybe Dan. It's easier to loop this. It's just to say for maybe I in names. This is straightforward, right? Then you can print I to print the individual data. The reason why this is straightforward is because you have a data you're working with already, so you could just loop over this particular one, which is names. But then whenever you want to loop over something over a particular period of time, you can actually use what we call range. There is a function called range that is expecting a parameter, right? If I pass in 4, it means I want to get the range from 0 to 4. So I can loop over this particular thing 4 times. What I mean is I can say for I in range this. What this means is I want to loop 4 times. If I do for I in range 3, it means I want to loop 3 times. If I do range 2, it means I want to loop 2 times, right? So that's basically what I'm going to be doing. Remember, the reason why we're doing that is because read line, we keep repeating 1, 1, 1 every single time. So in here, I can now say for I in range, remember I want to loop 4 times, right? So it means all these things that we have here, I'll just make sure they are indented inside that for loop. You can see, right? You have a question? If not, please let's mute our mic. All right. So for I in range 4 times, I want to extract one line from that particular file and store it in here. Then I'm printing that one line. So once I run it, it will print that one line. But because this particular thing is a loop in 4 places, so it will go back up again, it will print the second line, it will go back up again, print the third line, it will go back up again, print the fourth line. And because I'm printing the range of 4, it will stop, right? So now let me run it. You can see it says this is the first line, that's the first loop. The second loop is this is the second line. The third loop is this is the third line. The fourth loop is what? This is the fourth line. Yeah, so that is basically how you can loop over a specific period of iteration in Python, right? So I've actually combined a loop with opening a file. Why? Because of this read line. Read line will only output one item at a time unless you loop over it, right? So one other method that is in there that we need to treat is read lines with an S. So now let me do file.read lines. Then I want to store everything inside a variable content. Then I want to print the content, right? File.read lines. The former one was read line. Then we want to print everything. So now let me run it. You can see it went inside that file. Are we still together, please?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So it went inside that file and returned everything as a list. So that is the difference between .read and read lines. Read returns everything as a string. Everything, even if you have 5 million lines inside that data, it will return everything as a list. But .read lines will return everything as a list. So it means every of those list methods that you can do, let me do dir of this particular content now. So every of those methods we covered under list can be done on that particular data. You can see, you can pop, you can remove, you can append, you can clear, you can extend, you can count, yeah, because everything from this particular thing is a what? Is a list, right? So that's the difference between .read and .read lines. And remember, we are still treating the R mode. All right, so now let's move to another mode, which is the second one, the W. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me create a new function and say with open function. So what do I want to open? I want to open that same file, but then I'm setting the mode. Instead of even doing mode equals to R, Python allows you to even say to do this, right? Because the second parameter it is accepting is a mode. So there's no point typing mode equals to this. You don't have to if you don't want to, right? So I'll just leave it like this. So I want to set the mode to W, then alias as what? File. Then I just want to print completed. The reason why I'm printing completed is because, okay, I want to use the mode W, but then I want to know once it ran or not, or if it ran or not, right? But before I use W, remember we said W will write, it will override, or it will wipe something, right? It works in a way that before writing on it, it will first wipe what was there before. It can be very brutal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside this data.txt. I'll make sure I copy all these things first before it wiped, right? So I want to open this file, then I'm setting the mode to W, then I'm setting the alias as file. So the reason why I just printed completed here is so I'll know once it is done, right? So now let me run it. You can see I have completed here, right? So now let me go back inside that file. You will notice that it would have wiped everything from that file, right? So W is doing just that. It will write on that particular thing, but because we are not writing anything yet, that is why it looks empty, right? But the completed I have in there is just, remember, print is only doing one thing, which is to output something. So I only had completed here to know that, oh, it is done, this particular line has been, run. That is why I had completed here. So one thing we need to notice, whenever you're using W, it can be brutal. Why? Because, W is right, but it won't just write to add to something. It will write by wiping what was there before. So I can go back to that data.txt and paste this one, because I don't have the time to keep typing it. One other way of using W is we can use W to create a new file, right? Inside this file, I have an original data here, even though this is the first line, this is the second line, and so on. Say maybe I have, please, sorry for the disturbance. Say maybe we have, maybe we want to create another file. We want to say maybe new file equals new.txt. Let's say we want to create a file called new.txt. Python can create that using this W. You just need to pass the variable that is storing the file you want to create. Like in this case, new file, I'll just pass it here. So what I'm saying is, I created a variable that is equals to new.txt. There is no new.txt here yet. I want to use this particular function and this mode to create it, right? So I am passing that variable in here. I'm telling Python, help me check if this file exists. If it exists, write on it, wipe everything. But if it doesn't exist, create it for me. That is what the W would do, right? Now watch my left panel. You can see there is no new.txt here. But then watch it once I click on run. You can see a new.txt has now been created in the same path where my Python code is. You can see it here. So W can also be used to create a new file, right? But just make sure whenever you're using W, you make sure that you're not altering your data, right? Which is what the X is for. We are going to see it shortly, right? So now, instead of writing print completed here, this new file that we just created, what I want to do is I want to write something on it. So what do I want to write? I want to write something like maybe I want to say new content equals to this is, or let me just say new line added, right? So this is the data I want to add into this. Remember, new.txt is empty as it is. So I want to use this W to write this on that file. So Python says you can carry that same variable that is storing that file you just opened, which is file, and say file.write. So what are you writing? I want to write this on that particular file. So what would happen in essence is Python will create this particular file. If it doesn't exist, it will write on it. So what is now writing on it is whatever it is you pass inside this method, right? So now if I run it, you can see nothing happens because I just asked it to write. So I'll go back inside that file, new.txt, I'll click inside it. You can see it says new line added, right? So if maybe I change it to new line. Remember what is inside is new line added, right? So I now change the text to new line using the same W, then I'm using the .write to write on it. It will override the former one, right? So if I run it now, then I go back inside there, you can see new line. So whenever you're using W, just know that it will wipe everything that was there before it can now add something else to it. So W can actually be very brutal if you don't know what you are doing. Are we still together, please?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So what you can do instead, instead of wiping, is to use the mode A, right? So instead of setting mode W here, you can just set mode to what? A. So what I want to add here is I want to add new line added with append, right? And I've set the mode to A. A just means take whatever it is they pass here and write it, alongside what was there before, right? Remember, what is there before is new line. So now I want to add another line that says new line added with append, right? I've set the mode to A. So now if I run it, then I go back to that line, you can see this was the former line. Now it says new line added with append. But the problem here is it is adding everything on a new line, right? So if I go back in here and run the code again, it will add, you can see it is increasing. But the problem now is it is adding it on a new line. It is not adding it on a new line. I mean, it's adding it on a former line and not on a new line. But there's a particular character in Python, the \n. \n means you are adding something on another line. So it means after it has added this, I needed to just do this. So what it means is anything that comes after this former one, it will go on another line. Here's what I'm trying to say. Let me remove all these ones. So now this is what we have inside our new.txt. Alright, so now let me run this again and we'll see. So nothing happens, so I'll go back here. I needed to clear the terminal first. Sometimes it just duplicates if you don't clear the terminal. So I'll clear, then I'll go back here. So see what is inside, just a text of new line. Then I'll go back here, then I'll run this, then I'll go back here. You can see new line, this was the former one, this is the one we just added. Let me go back there and run it again, and I'll go back there. You can see it will keep adding it on a new line. Maybe I have another record, maybe new names equals Shegun, then the escape character also. So I want a new line, so I can go here also and add this. So new names, and I run it, you can see it will always come on a new line, right? The difference between append and W is append just keeps adding to the former record. W will wipe everything first before it adds to the record. So that's the difference between those two, right? Now to the last one, which is X. Anytime you set your mode to X and you try to run it, you will get an error in your terminal. It says file exists error, which is why I said one is unsafe, one is safe, right? So whenever you get a file exists error when you are using X, it means that file exists. So it means you can even have this inside a try and except and say try to run this, right? You can have all this inside there. But if there is an except error, maybe except file exists error. So what do we want to do? We want to tell the person that that file already exists or something like that, right? So that's just the difference between the X and the W, right? So this one is asking, do you really know what you are doing? Because once you wipe everything, you cannot bring it back. So if you still want to now do it, it means you can now change the mode to what? W. That's if that is what you want. But just note that X mode will always throw a warning for you so you know what you are actually trying to do. Are we still together, please?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So these are different modes of file handling, right? The R, you just want to read. The W, you want to wipe or you want to create a new file. The A, you want to add to an existing file, then the X you want to wipe, but you want to be sure first, right? So that is what the X will do. It will just warn you that, oh, this thing that you want to do, it's a complete database already. It's a complete file that has some data in it, right? So are you really sure you want to? So if you're really sure, you can just put that inside the try and accept, then just to force whatever it is you want to do. Yeah, so that's that about file handling. Remember, there's a reason why we are treating all these topics as basics, right? Because from next week, because the only topic remaining for us to do is modules, right? Modules. That's the only topic remaining for us. How to import a file inside another file, how to use choices, how to random, generating stuff like that. So that's the last topic we are going to do. Then we'll start handling projects. So all these things that we've done, we are going to be needing them later. We are going to be using file handling to open a CSV files, right? CSV files, right? So we are going to be doing a lot with file handling. So yeah, so that's basically that with file handling. The mode, the RWACs, that is how I remember them. Then make sure you set your absolute path. Then whichever method you prefer. If it is the former one, I would not recommend it because you always need to close. I recommend the with open method, right, using an alias, because you don't have to always close as long as you maintain that indented this indented line, right? Then using the multiple methods inside that file, read line, read lines, dot write, dot read, and so on and so forth. Any question? Any question? So this was what we treated in class.
No question.
How to handle errors, how to handle files. Then from next week we are going to do modules, then our first project and stuff like that. So we'll take it from there. All right, so if there are no questions, you are going to give me like a few hours because it takes a while for YouTube to even vet the videos I'm going to be uploading, right? But then if that was done very fast, then I'm going to be posting the link. So I'm going to be posting 2 links. The first one for error handling, then part of the file handling seeped into the second video, right? I'm going to be posting those 2 videos. I'll share the link in the group. So once I do that, probably later on in the night, so you can just watch and practice with that. So wherever you're stuck or whatever errors you're having, you can just screenshot and post and ask the questions in the group. Then on Monday, the task for the week would be posted, and we take it from there. All right, so if there are no questions, thank you guys for joining in today's session. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.